Good morning and welcome to F3 Faith Family Focus. I'm Faith. This is my dad, Schaefer. And we are excited to bring you to our second episode of F3. In our last show, we covered hashtag girl dad and the power it has on a father-daughter relationship. We drove into a relationship we have personally and many lessons we have discovered together and how important it is to my development as well as his. So today we want to get more into the topic of self-development. But today we will touch on the topic of parental loss and the impact it has on a child's development and growth. So we shared our story with you last show, but to give some background to our viewers, Dad, how about you just tune everybody on in?
So for those who don't know our story, we're going to kind of bring you to as we talked before, taking you down that hallway, and we're going to take you in that room, and that room is the loss of Sue. And for those of you that have had an opportunity to look at the faith video, it kind of talks through that loss. But what we want to do is what actually happened and what that process was as far as healing, the transition that we had to make, dealing with the loss as a father. How do I nurture? How do I give my two kids, Devon and Faith, the tools to navigate through life? Because at the end of the day, one of the things that mommy did share with us, and wonderfully in her final days, was she prepared us. She articulated what life would be like without her, and part of that is that communication and being brutally honest about the reality is that we have to continue on that path. And with the current events, with people losing people with this virus, it's a topic that I thought would be very, very valuable. So with that being said, I want Faith to kind of give a little backdrop on what she began to experience, how she was able to begin to navigate through that.
One thing that when I approach this topic, because it's very personal to me, something I've been through, one thing that I wanted to bring up is the fact that I did so much research on it the older I got. And one thing that I learned through my research were the effects and impacts it has on these kids as they get older. And one is risk management in the moment and decision making can be faltered through key development years after the loss. And another one is academic performance can decrease. Behavior in school can decline. Depression later on in years, it can pass, maybe 20 years later or even 5. And some forms of PTSD. These are all things that I really looked into. I found very interesting because I wanted to learn more about this group that my brother and I were part of now, this small demographic population. And the more I learned more about it and the more interested I became, and I kind of dove into it when I got into college. I'm a psychology major. One of the reasons I really loved being a psychology major is because I can analyze events like this and how it impacts kids. And I was very interested in kids in socioeconomic challenging places, how they're impacted by loss. So this definitely motivated a lot of the things in my life and the decisions I've made. And one thing is these qualities or traits that can accompany a child who has gone through loss, like myself and my brother, are very impactful. They're real. They happen, and we've all come face to face with them somehow.
Right. So let me ask you this question. What are maybe some of the things, how do you not let this control your life initially, Faith?
Well, for me, one of the things and the reasons why I did so much research in this topic and did so much, spent so much quality time with this was because I wanted to learn about who I was and what was supposed to come with this loss, and how can I help myself in the long run is learning and researching more on it. And the one thing I came to a company on, and that kind of I arrived at, the door I arrived at when I got to college, was that this is part of my story, but it's not my story.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And by saying that, I mean that obviously, as I got older, I was able to talk more about who I was and the story that happened to our family, and how losing someone impacted my life and drove me to where I was today. But I didn't get to that part and that point in my life until I got older and I was able to cope more and navigate through the loss with time. And I think that understanding that it's part of your story, but not your story, means that it's not who you are. It's just your one chapter. It's two chapters, and in a book, chapters are so important to the final destination, the plot, the climax, whatever the
Right.
author is building up in his story, in my life story. That is just a part that kind of pushes me as who I am, who God is making me to be.
Right. Right. But one thing I did observe, and I mean, it was obviously our life changed drastically, very, very quick. And not for me as a dad, but then obviously I began to worry and figure out how to navigate and putting you in a position. Both you and Devon. I remember it was right before your freshman year, and it was also right before I think Devon was 9 or 10, and one of the first things I did was, I communicated to the teachers because it was new, and just to make them aware. The one thing I noticed really early on was both of you were kind of focused, and I think it was a result of those really beautiful, special words that mommy left you with, that you're okay. And that gave me some comfort, but, you didn't let it be an excuse. How did you not use these things to be excuses in your life, because you were pretty focused.
Um, that's a great question, and I think that it's a key question when it comes to any form of traumatic event on a person's life. Is sometimes it's able to allow that traumatic event to be the moment that you say forget it,
Mm-hmm.
or it's easy for you to be, well, I failed science class, in a very simple example. I
Right.
failed science class. It's okay because I lost a parent. Okay. Now, if you're diving into that a little more, is I was exhausted. I could not
Mhm.
sleep.
Right.
I was able to talk to anybody. Now that is more of a realistic
Right.
reason, and a more of a reason that you can kind of figure out than it compared to, because something happened to me. I don't feel like it. And it's not trying to be insensitive, but it's more like understanding that this is no reason for you to make excuses for you not to attack life, for you to not be motivated to want to do something, to want to believe in something, for you to not want to live your life. And one of the main things for me, and because I was raised by such great parents, but most importantly, is a woman who was very self motivated, very independent, um, classy, etc. She painted morals for me for 14 years that were easy for me to follow, that are just habitual in my head, and stuff that I come across every single day is okay. I was taught better than that, and
Right.
it's easy for me to do that, because I can remember the morals and lessons that came before this event. And and another thing was being able to use my faith,
Mm.
understanding that this is a process in life. Like I said earlier, it's a story. My story, God is my author. He is putting together these pieces. There should be no reason why I'm like, well, why on earth is this? Of course, we don't know why it's happening. It's not our chapter to write. But it'd be stupid of me and it'd be unfortunate of me to make excuses for my life, and excuses for me not to want to live it, and make excuses for decisions I make.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
you should still own up to things you do, because when you own up to things, you can understand, why did I make that decision? Why did I go left instead of right? Because I can do self-analyzation.
Right.
And I think that the more I talk to God, the more I read, the more I always say research. I research everything. I Google like crazy, but the more I really just invest my time into how can I instead of why, it's more of a habit to not form excuses, but more to just try to find a solution in a
Right,
way.
right. Do you remember during that time, what do you remember what your role was? Or did you feel like you had a role with Devon?
I think while Devin and I we were very close age, we're 4.5 years apart. So he was what, eight? Eight. He was older. Devin was 8
Yeah,
when mom
yeah.
passed.
I
And
think
I
it
was,
was 9. Yeah, 9. It was
yeah,
9.
Devin's
Yeah.
older.
Hmm.
And I was 14. It was very he made my life very easy. Let's just make that a point of view. We got a lot closer. I had to step up more as a mediator, as a communicator. Um, I brought a softness, I feel like, to situations.
Right,
Just
right.
a great way to explain it. And that kind of came naturally. And I really don't think that that's something you can just read up on. It's something that you kind of just immerse yourself in and you figure out one step at a time. And I think that, like I said earlier, Devin made it so easy for me because one, we were close in age. So we're
Right,
blessed by that part. But also because Devin's very mature for his age.
right.
He's very well spoken. He thinks through things. He's obviously the smartest one in the family because he's able to see things and
Yes, I
solve it
agree with you.
in his brain. While you and I are like visual, do the problem. Devin can like solve the puzzle. Okay, the answer is A, B, and C because D is incorrect. He does things like that. So working with him, I feel like it was a great puzzle piece to who I was because he complemented our family in a sort of way that was so amazing, and I was just so thankful to have a sibling that. But one thing is we became so close. Like we were
You
side by
did.
side. Even today, he's like my best friend. And although we don't talk every day because he's in his 18-year-old phase where it's like I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping. It's 5 o'clock in PM. I'm sleeping. And I'm just like, here he goes. But he'll call me some days and he'll just be like, what you doing?
Right,
Let me tell you what just happened. Or he'll be like, oh, you just need to talk to your dad. He's being ridiculous. He's not listening. I'm leaving. And I'm like, okay, like let's all relax. He does things like that.
right,
And because one, what people don't understand is Devin's very like, you can tell he's going to Yale.
right,
Like this is ridiculous.
right,
This
right,
situation is beneath me. Like I already have solved the problem. You are stuck in the past. He's so advanced, and I think that for you that is taking as a parent, you're like, oh my goodness, like
right.
this kid is a young man, but he's also so intelligent and so he thinks through everything so well, and it's fun to watch. But he truly is such a good compliment. And while this experience happened to us, it really drew us so close together
It
on
did.
another level of that's truly like me and him can just hang out or sit in bed watch Netflix. That's just who he is. Or he'll call me and we'll just be on the phone for 2 hours talking about nothing,
Right, right,
nothing at all. And that's what I'm so thankful for because in this experience, that's another thing that helped me not make excuses and not kind of dwell in the negative of my life, and it has helped me motivate and move on was he truly just is a reason. He's a why. I mean, Devin is like proof that positive things, and there's always something to be thankful for within your little muck of a moment.
right, right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I always share pictures of the two of you holding hands. Even to this
Mm-hmm.
day, we go out, you're holding hands. I'm walking behind you, and I'm just brings me so much joy. I remember the really difficult days afterwards and asking Devin, how are you? He goes, well, Dad, I'm okay, but do me a favor. And they're very aware, when you go through this process, when you saw those 2 months and how difficult it was. And
Mm-hmm.
when he asked me, um, is mommy going to make it? And I go, no, we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
And when she did get through it, the one thing he did ask me, he said, Dad, just always tell me the truth, right? Just tell me the truth.
And
And,
that's so Devin.
right,
That's so Devin.
exactly.
Like I know this is what happened, but for as a life lesson in this moment, make sure you tell me the truth from now on,
Right,
or make
right.
sure you do it
That
this
was him.
way. He's such a great communicator, and it's just it's I don't think people understand how mature he is. Because sometimes I'm just like, where did you learn
I
this?
know.
Who instilled this in you? Because we're like such doers, and he's more someone, which I'll touch on later, is he is able to be in
Yeah.
a moment. He's able to be like, all right, Devon, I feel this way. And
Mm.
as a child who loses a parent, that's so important to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I feel this way today. I don't feel great today.
Yeah.
And be able to communicate it like, hey, dad, I don't feel like it today. I
Yeah.
don't feel, but, and he still would be like, I don't feel like it today. I'm going to go do it because you guys told me to do it. I'm going to do it the best I can because that's
Right.
who he is. And he doesn't complain. He's so different than me.
Right.
Does it and it's over. And he's just like, okay.
Right. Right. Well, it brought joy. It brought joy. It continues to bring joy. I think it's as parents, it's just a wonderful thing to be able to see when siblings are close. And I think one of mommy's obviously gifts in her spirit was and joy was to want that to happen. And not only was it happening after, but it was happening before that you guys were really, really close. And he was there. You remember we were watching one of the videos of you me training you basketball. He was actually rebounding. He was rebounding,
Don't
right?
understand. Devin's childhood, forget the loss of a parent, forget all that. Devin's childhood, the poor kid was left out of everything. Bless his heart. No, truly, bless his heart. But he was the younger sibling. And that's probably why he's so mature now because he's like,
Mhm.
oh,
He was
well,
watching. He was
he
observing.
watched everything.
Right.
And he would rebound every Saturday.
Every
He would rebound all the balls. The ball is bigger than his head. He would just like throw it back. And it was all his effort. Like in the moment, he was the rebounder. Like this
right.
is who I am.
Right.
And poor and me and you were going at it, and we're just like, I'm just like, oh, I'm here for the fourth hour. Like Devon, I'm looking at Devon, and Devon's like, just do it, Faith. I don't know what
Right.
your problem is. And he's
Right.
like,
Right. Well, when can I do it?
and
Remember
then
that?
he goes,
When can I do it?
okay,
When
my
is
turn,
that?
my turn.
Right.
And he's like killing it, and you're just like, Devon, like you see, we're here 4 hours, and you're just so excited. That was the best moment for me because then I'm like, I'm gonna go sit down,
Right.
and
Right.
you can see Devon in. During those days, we were close, but it wasn't like because me and you, we were one on one. And the thing that I think that is so, I'm having a come to moment, but like Devon and mom were very close. The mother son, because me and you spent so much time together. Devon and mom were like Batman Robin. Like those two were like side by side. He
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
such a mommy's boy. He still is. And it's just like for him, and I tell people all the time, they spent all the time together. The
Right.
tournaments, Devon was with him. And although she wanted to kill him many times, because remember those, Devon was all over the place. He was like
Right.
running on the court as a grown child, like flipping off things, somersaulting downstairs, like.
Right.
But those two were like
Yeah.
side by side every single time, and I think that eventually we'll bring Devon out on the show, and then he'll touch on his relationship a little bit. But he and her were really close, and I
Right.
think that it was beautiful, and maybe that he definitely it has a lot of her mannerisms and a lot of who she was. While I have it, he has it at a young age, and it's
Right. I agree with you.
and that's probably why me and him gravitate towards each other so much because we both have parts that we've grasped and then kind of like in like tried to become, and he's someone who's he really life is like it like kind of like floated to him.
Right.
He has a lot of who she is like that he says things sometimes and you're just like that's not nice to say, and I'm just looking at him like who are you, who are you, Susan Hoster Suggs, who are you?
Right. Right.
But
Right. Oh my God. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Now, how do you find that balance of allowing yourself to grieve but not make excuses for trauma?
this is my favorite topic, kind of that type of question, because the older I've gotten,
Hmm.
the more I've been able to analyze trauma and traumatic events. And for a long time, I was like, I didn't know that I had gone through something traumatic.
Hmm.
I didn't really think that it was something because I see things happen on a daily to kids, and I see, and I'm so blessed to have. I had two parents, and now I even have one very involved parent, and I'm so thankful and blessed. But one thing about it is when I started really analyzing, like, no, something traumatic happened in my life, and understanding that, and while I was kind of focused on like, okay, don't make excuses for this, use this as motivation, use this as something that can kind of
Right.
target in on something I really want to love to do. How can I use this to kind of just create a better person out of an event like this? But for me, it was also understanding, because I shut down a lot, and I would not talk about the experience, and it took me
Right.
a very long time, and maybe till junior, senior year, for me to really like start opening up my story to people, because I didn't want to feel, and I also, it was very hard for me to talk about it because it brought back memories.
Right.
It brought back, people would just look at you and
Yeah.
just like, oh, that's your story. And so for me, and it was just understanding, no, this Faith, something amazing is happening in your life, and you're a very strong person. And for me to be able to see that's who I was very humbling, and it was to see the impact that my story had on other people. And I remember my coach P at Duke, she told me, I remember this till this day, and I said it to you the other day when we were going through our notes. She said, when you feel like telling your story, you'll tell your story,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll arrive in that moment at your own time. And then I arrived in that moment my senior year, where I was able to speak on it, and I was able to do the video with ESPN, and then I was able to do articles and touch on things and speak with kids.
Right.
And I think for me, I was finally feeling it and understanding and opening kind of those wounds again to kind of navigate, like, oh, gosh, how I don't remember how I felt in that moment. And then I would think back and talk with Devon, and yeah, I think that the main, and I say that this is my favorite saying, and I'll say it a billion times on the show, and I hope this is something that resonates with people, is don't tell anyone how to feel your trauma.
Mm.
Don't let anyone tell you how to feel your trauma. That's your trauma. That's your experience. Don't let Boo-Foo and whoever it is tell you,
Right.
well, you should feel this way.
Right. Right.
Or it's not normal for you not to feel this way. And then you feel guilty inside because you're like, why don't I still feel sad? Why don't I feel like, why am I able to live my life? And it's like, no. That's none of their business. Don't let anyone tell you how to feel your trauma. Don't let anyone tell you how to feel, period. And don't tell anyone how to feel their trauma.
Right.
You need to, and
That was you. That
yeah,
was you. Yes.
like you need to understand. And for me, with you, I tell you this all the time, and you hate having conversations with me because I'm always like, what about the other? I devil's advocate the heck out of the conversation. And I'm like, well, what? I'm not telling you how to feel. I say it all the time. I'm not telling you how to feel, but have you looked at it this way?
Right.
And that's a healthy way. And I wish that people more, and it's hard.
Right.
Not a lot of people know kids who have gone through something like this. It's hard to talk to people. And I remember before I went through it, it seems like such an off in the distance
Right. How
event,
can it happen to us? Right.
right? How could this happen to us? And then it happens so quickly. And then people are so delicate and they walk on
Right.
eggshells. And I'll get to that later because that's a whole nother thing. But don't tell me how to feel. I won't tell you how to feel, but I'm going to help you navigate and understand how to feel.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And whatever your body arrives on and whatever your mind and soul arrives on, that's where we are today.
Right.
So that was one thing for me is while not making excuses, understanding, but be okay to feel, and don't be forced or pushed or feel like you're in a rush to feel. Okay. For me, in the moment, I was like, I didn't feel yet. And even months later, when I got to college, I finally started feeling the magnitude of that absent place in my life, because I was growing older and I was becoming a woman, and I was finally starting to see how important it is on a woman's development. That is when it started to really hit me like, wow, I went through something traumatic. Wow, this really impacted who I was. And I want to share it.
Right.
But it was 6, 7, 8 years past the experience, because I was in such a driven young mode that it was like, okay, this happened. All right, I don't want to be in this space right now. Let's move on to the next thing.
Right, right. I remember
Let's
that.
work in school. And it wasn't like, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And it's okay because you can't, no one can tell me how to feel my experience
Right.
at the end of the day. The only
Right.
person I would ever sit with, and I remember specifically, now that I'm thinking about it, there was a moment when mom passed away, me and Devon sat down and he was like, gosh, Dad, and people don't understand Devon and I, but like we are like, Devon was like, Dad sat me in front of this oak tree and he told me, and it was like a movie, and it was just so emotional. And that's how Devon and I are. We laugh through our pain
Right.
and we move through our pain, and we were just cracking up,
Right.
cracking up. And then,
Like he knew already. Right.
yeah, Devon's like a spiritual animal. People don't understand.
Right.
It's like Yoda.
So
You don't
mom's good.
understand.
She's in
And like
heaven right now.
Devon
Mom's
knows
good.
things. He'll be like, I know. And you'll be like, okay, how do you know that? But in that moment, while we were laughing and laughing, later on in the day, and I feel like I have never told him, he probably totally forgot about this. I just broke down crying with him. And I was like, Devon, I miss her so much. Devon, like, this is scary. And he was like, this is the crazy thing about Devon. He's 8, 9 years old. He's like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and that's why I say Devon and I grew so close. And it was so, I could feel with him because he understands.
Right.
And you can't force anyone to like gravitate towards people and gravitate towards people with similar experiences because at the end of the day, unless it's your sibling, it's going to be hard for you to find people to connect with.
Right. You're
So
right.
don't let anyone tell you how to feel. Don't let anyone tell you how
Right.
to feel your trauma, your experience. That's ridiculous. For me, and when I learned that, I was, and the thing is, as kids, you're kind of like, oh, they're so helpful. They're trying to
Right. Right.
help.
Right. Right.
There's a healthy way to help. And I think that taking and you kind of take a lot of it, the advice.
Right.
Okay, well,
Right.
you'll be fine. Just focus on this. You'll be, and you're just like, okay, okay. And the older I get, was like, man, mind your business. I got this under control. The
Right.
older I get, okay, I got this. And the the older I got, the more my empathy grew
I
because I was
agree with you.
able
Yeah.
to, because for some period, and this is another thing that can come with kids who lose parents or people who go through traumatic events at a young age, you compare.
Hmm.
You compare trauma with other people, and not in a competing way, but kind of like, oh, they didn't go through what I went through, so it's hard for you to feel for that person.
Oh.
And the more, but yeah, it's a common thing
Hmm.
that happens a lot,
Right.
and it's very, it's not something that you can really control, but you have to grow through and feel your own trauma and understand. Because when I finally arrived on that point, I was like, wow, like I understand. I have more empathy now.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember, because one of the things I had to learn from my childhood was how to feel and how to not show my emotion. You got to be tough. That doesn't hurt, right? And I remember how you evolved into that because I think you felt a little uncomfortable when you saw me go through that emotion when I was crying, or you were the one that said, "Dad, you got this. You hold me up," and which was good because
Yeah.
you were telling me it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got more and more comfortable with that later as you got
Yeah.
older.
That just came with maturity and growth,
Right.
and,
Right.
and really diving in, understanding who I was and
Mm-hmm.
who I was becoming.
Right. Right.
One thing that
Hmm.
out of this whole experience, and we went through this loss, and for me, it was the same gender loss. I had lost a mother,
Huh.
so the maternal figure, which was really hard because I missed out on a lot of things that a lot of girls and my peers got to experience. So I got to 14, and a lot of the events I used to go to and a lot of the concerts and stuff I used to go to with mom were now kind of like challenged, and people didn't know how to invite or operate
Right.
me into the equation. And so I became very independent. And I kind of formed a habit, and I'm thankful for this habit. And people, like I said earlier, I Googled the heck out of everything. People would like joke with me all the time, but like I really Googled my life. Like I Googled, I
Yeah.
read, I tried to figure out like what is like I'm becoming a woman. Who am I? What can I read? How do one of the biggest things, and I was so thankful that I had a mom who was an executive director who was she was a leader. She had a very leader personality, and the three of us do. And the one thing I was able is now that I'm in the adult world and I'm operating in these spaces of business is how to be a woman in office, how to be a woman in a male dominated business. There's something, you know what I'm saying? How do
Right.
you navigate through conversations? How do you approach being interrupted? How do you approach being assumed that you don't understand? Things like that I was able to hear as she talked to you when she came home from work. As she broke down, and she never directly spoke to me, but these are the type of things that I took. But I also, as I grow older, I've had to figure things out.
Right.
And that was only one example of so many. And I became very independent, and it's a habit of me to just self-discovery, discover it on my own, and try to figure it out. Google the heck out of the problem and be like, this article, this, and I send studies and I read and I send you studies all the time and articles.
Yeah, you do.
And I think that the one thing I really wish I had, and in last show I talked about my three words of navigation. For me, I learned a lot about divine feminine energy, and a lot of people don't know what that is. And honestly, I only arrived on it like 5 months ago. But what divine energy, feminine energy is understanding your divine feminine energy. It's important from a young age that we understand the strengthening of just being. So there's feminine energy and there's masculine energy, and it's in every single person.
Right.
Okay. Like you have feminine, masculine energy, I have masculine, feminine energy. Masculine energy is in all of us, but it's the power of doing, wanting to put something to effect, to want to go, attack the problem, green light. Okay. And divine feminine energy is kind of the yellow red. Okay. It's understanding how to just wait a second. The world's moving very fast. Let me sit here and look at the trees.
Right.
Let me sit here and take in the fact that I'm alive. Okay. And especially in all of what's going on around society, I'm alive. I'm in the moment. I'm being. Okay. I'm comfortable in my creativity. I'm comfortable in my faith. I can just read this book. And I really wish as an athlete growing up, and we were constantly on the road, moving, game to game.
Right.
And there's not a lot of time for free time for me to go have fun, to go hang out with other kids who are doing things. So I really wish that I had this moment where it was like faith, 30 minutes a day, just sit. 30 minutes a day. You can meditate for 2 because there's no, I'm for something, I'm like, I can't meditate. My brain is like all over the place because even now I have that habit. But like, read a book.
Right.
Sit still. Make a chapter a day. Listen to a podcast a day. And these are type of things I try to do that are like small moments of just silence. So like small moments of just being in the moment, being who I am, the woman I am, and it helps me kind of keep a balance between the crazy, constant movement of life, and maybe in that moment, the constant movement of trying not to stop. That would have helped me a lot for sure. And in this, I kind of would have been able to analyze myself more. And now that I'm doing that, I'm analyzing a lot about myself and what my tendencies are and how I operate within relationships. So yeah, it's very helpful. And that's one thing I know I brought to you for you to learn about, and you read up on it now.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. What did you need from me?
Mm-hmm.
What did you need from me? And I always revisit that because, obviously we have gotten to a point and place in our lives where we're okay. With the grace of God, we're okay, and we know that we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg as far as where we're going to go in our lives. And because I although I'm a little bit older, I still have that energy, and I still have that, and I know that there's so much in front of me as far as you and Devon, but what could I have given you
And that's such a great question. And that kind of accompanies and closes out our hashtag girl dad
Mhm.
conversation because what does a young woman who's becoming a woman need from someone who has gone through something like this?
Yeah.
And I think my biggest thing is communication, open door communication, but not just communication where it's like, I feel like this is asking questions, trying to understand how did mom operate in this situation? How did, and then if you don't know, my second thing is research,
Right. Right.
read. You're raising a woman. It's so important. And as important it is for you to raise a great man for society, it's so important that you create a woman that is in touch with her feelings, understands how to be comfortable in who she is, who is independent, who can make decisions on the run, and make sure that you're creating, because at the end of the day you're creating a boss, you're creating a mother, you're creating a wife, you're creating all these things that are the next generation of society. So it's so great that when and I send you studies and books, and you used to have books all the time, is read, research,
Mhm.
ask questions. That's something
Right.
great that you do, and that would be my only thing for parents in these experiences is try to and teach yourself, immerse yourself in places that you want your kid to be. Understand and be, like I say all the time, be in your moment. Be able to, so that when you're having these conversations of, well, have you ever thought about this, and this?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that, it's learning humility,
Mm-hmm.
and being humble, was very important for me because I was in a space that I obviously have never been, and that's raising two kids, let alone raising a daughter. And I remember there's times where I tried to go in that mommy path, and you reminded me that you're doing fine. Just be you,
Be.
and whether it's taking you to go get your prom dresses,
Mm-hmm.
very expensive prom dresses, right? Your homecoming dresses,
Mm-hmm.
taking you on those not necessarily athletic things, but in that I was able to, be able to talk to you, and you saw that feminine, you saw that part of me that I think made our relationship a lot more rounded because, you
Yeah.
know, when mommy was alive, I was okay. I was the play dad. I
Mm-hmm.
want to play that, Okay, it's time to
Fun
go
guy.
play, right?
Fun guy.
But it allowed me to really embrace those wonderful moments, but not only with you, but also with Devon.
Yeah.
And I ask a lot of questions. We have a lot of wonderful people in our lives. The my brother, my sister Veronica, my brother Mike, the Greens.
Yeah.
They were our confidant. I mean, 'cause what I didn't know, especially the part about your hair, you know, that part about your hair, that was fun.
You never ever had to approach that shenanigans. That was never asked upon you. People do not assume that he was some sort of like Moroccan oil, hair, shea butter expert. He didn't know what he was doing. And he had no responsibility. Nobody asked him to do my hair. So clean the slate. But I will say that you were in
Mhm.
my favorite memories of during that time was that we did get to go do dress shopping, and we probably bought like six dresses in within the high school window, and
I can open up the
always,
closet and show everybody every
yep,
one
we
of
have
them,
all my dresses
every one of them,
as
right?
long as all my jerseys and all my shoes. But you were like, but you've always been my stylist. You've always been like that was something you loved to do. You used to bring home clothes and but my biggest thing is you would just be there and you would just positive affirmation. Like, I love that one too. And you just be like, Dad, like you said, you love all of them. Like, which one do you like? And so we would go back and forth, but eventually it was Mia. I make a decision. You're like, that's what you want? All right. I love that one. Yeah. And you would always have a moment. You were so great at this. And this is what I require in people around me. You were like, yep, that's the one. That's the one. I'm sure of it. That's the one I loved all along. And I'm like, yeah, this is the one.
Well,
He's
we're about 2 hours
he
into it,
was
though,
right
remember?
2 hours, but I was like, yeah, this is the one. He didn't tell me how long, but he agrees. And that was it. That was all I needed in the moment. I was like, this is the one. I'm so happy with my decision because somebody's here with me to be like, yep, that's the one. So yeah.
Right.
For sure. I think that to close out this discussion, we're going to dive into something that for me, because you dive into so many areas of this. When an experience like this happens, as a kid, you all of a sudden become labeled the kid who lost a parent.
Right.
And people look at you that way. And I called Devon yesterday or 2 days ago, and I was talking to him about it, and he was cracking me up because he was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Everybody looks at you like you're fragile.
Right.
Like you can break at any moment, that you're going to cry at any moment. And he was like, I came back to school because Devon and I went back to school very quickly.
You did.
I went back to school 2 days later.
Right.
A day later. I wanted to just keep moving. Like, no.
That's what you needed to do.
Yeah. And you were like, are you sure? And Devon was kind of like, I don't know if I want to go back to school. But I was like, Devon, yes, you do. You just don't.
He used to want to go to school.
Yeah. but even now, he like will never miss school. People like he won't miss school. But
oh my God! Right?
Yeah, he never missed school. He's at perfect attendance. So I remember I was talking to Devon. He was like, God, I went to school, and this teacher was like, Devon, how are you? How can I help you? This is where my office. And Devon was like, okay, like thank you for helping, but like back up. Like,
right.
Like, let me navigate my space. Let me feel my trauma the way I want to feel my trauma.
Right.
And even he was 9. And so all the kids knew, and it wasn't like that we weren't like, everybody kind of knew each other. This is when we were going to school with kids we had known since the 5th, 3rd, 2nd grade. Like we were with the same people, the same friend groups, the same teachers the school, and everybody knew each other. Everybody lived in the same neighborhood. We were all in the same distance. So it wasn't like everybody didn't know. So everybody's looking at you, and you're the kid that lost a parent, and you're so kind of like not alienated, but you're different. You're different. And you're kind of the odd one out. And me and Devon, we have very similar personalities. So we're like, okay, like this is uncomfortable. Could we just move? Could we just move on from the conversation?
Right.
And because that's who we are, we just it was different. And I remember me and you were talking about notes yesterday, and you jogged back to my brain a time when Devon was at school. Can you tell the story?
Yeah. So and one of the reasons that you both of you received that was, what I needed to do was thinking about how do I make this easy for them. So I actually contacted every one of your teachers and shared what the experience, and most of them knew from the time when mommy got sick that we were going through that, and when it happened, and so a lot of that was a result of them being a little bit overly, which was wonderful because they kept an eye on. But one of Devon's teachers, if I got her name, but she called me back, and apparently one of the kids in line turned around and pushed Devon. He said, "I'm glad your mommy died."
Yeah, and Devon told me a story actually yesterday, and was like the kid just said it, and then they passed each other in the hallway, and Devon was sat there and was like, "Wait, what? Did you just wait? What? What?" He was like in shock. He was like, "Did he just say that?"
Right.
And
what did you say? What did you say he should have done?
To knock the kid out. I'm very different. Devon's more.
Right.
He is Yoda. Like he is like the little like Suggs Yoda.
Right.
And he like was probably like, how can I get this kid later in life?
Right.
And I mean, he did. He's going to Yale. But like,
right.
For me, I was like, oh no, it's my spot right now. It's happening. No. And for me, I remember in the moment I was angry. I was like, what do you mean you didn't hit him? What do you mean you didn't show him what? And
that's what mommy would have wanted him to do, jack him, right?
Yeah, like what are you talking?
Right.
But no one spoke to me that way. So it must have been the way he presented himself. But that for me is so crazy because kids are mean. I never experienced any meanness because I think I was older, so kids kind of were like understanding the kind of magnitude that was happening. And for me, it was more like a sympathetic, like,
Right, right.
and I hate that. That's one of my biggest pet
I
peeves.
know.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of like, ugh.
Right.
And I know one thing that you really did well, and I'm saying well, is
Oh, waiting to hear this.
you got us to therapy.
Right.
Family therapy, everybody, 8:30s on Monday. And Devin and I hated therapy. God, we hated it. We hated going to see this lady. You know what she was talking about. It was like, how do you feel? And Devin and I were like,
Oh, I remember you were looking at each other like, are you kidding me?
sleep. It was
Right.
after practice. Like, I was done. I just wanted food. But the thing was, you exposed us and you immersed us to therapy at a young age. And therapy has this stigma that some people don't believe in it. Some people that think that you're mentally sick if you go. Some people, there's a lot of negatives that surround therapy, and thankfully in 2020 it's growing and it's more relatable because a lot of people are going. But I'm 23 years old. I'll go see a therapist right now. I don't care because I was immersed in that at a young age. I'm comfortable with it because just because you're going to therapy doesn't mean something's wrong.
Right.
You can just go because you want somebody to talk who's not going to judge you. That's really what it is. You just want to be heard. And I'm so thankful that you kind of did that and you did the right thing. And I know that it helped you a lot personally. So I was able to see how it affects adults. And Devon was like the big advocate, was like, what are we doing here?
Right.
Why are we here? I don't even know what she's talking about. And it was kind of like, for me, it was just kind of like, okay, you know how both of us are. We don't want to talk about it. Like, we'll come to this point eventually. Yeah. And I think family therapy is great because it brings the importance and it teaches kids, like, okay, therapy's okay. Therapy is all right. We learned that it's something people do, and it's something that I do now, and it's something that Devon eventually, when he gets older and he arrives into feeling his trauma at his own time, he'll probably be like, wow, there's nothing wrong with it. Let's go. Let me go talk somebody's ear off.
Right.
And I think that that's one thing that really made the transition easy for us. And I think another was how Mom prepared us.
Right.
In the moment, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this kind of touched on the therapy too. It was a time that, Dad needed to, for me, we moved for a couple of reasons, but we just needed that paradigm shift in our lives. I know I did. Staying in that house, I think we moved 2 years after Mom passed to the Flossmoor. And so there was two things, we had not up until that point gone to therapy. So I thought, the move, I think had a lot more effect on you guys than I knew at the time. And later on, I remember you telling me that you never apologized for moving us. I remember you saying that.
Devon said that.
Devon said that. Okay. Right.
It was big on Devon.
Right. Because, I think you were going into your senior year, but see, now he understands it now because I moved him for his junior and senior year, to put you guys in a position to succeed, but when we moved earlier, it was twofold. One, we just needed a fresh start, and then two, for the other reason. But I think therapy is good, but find the right fit, right? Find the right fit. She wasn't necessarily the right fit, but the fact that we arrived there, what it did, it allowed us to kind of say, okay, I guess we are okay. Because you guys were up the road. And I realized during that time that, okay, I'm the one that's still really struggling. I'm struggling with the decisions I'm making for you guys, and I'm still struggling with the loss too. So, but it was very helpful to be exposed to it because, for me, the recovery has been a part of my life. And so I had to learn, I've always learned how to just sit down and, finally go, okay, let's dig inside there and put it out. Okay, look at it, forgive it, and go on and let go and let God. So, just trying to apply that. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing that part up, because that's something we did do, and it's something that I do recommend ongoing. I mean, when you're hurt physically, you go to the doctor,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if something's not right, you're not feeling, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's father son, father daughter, if it's not clicking, you got to figure out a way to make it click, because life is too short. You don't get it back. You don't get it back. We only get one chance.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons that, sometimes I feel, you feel, probably I'm always checking on you, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
always checking on you. I'm always checking on Deb, and even that I'm annoying sometimes, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to be annoying, right?
Yeah.
Because you're my baby, so I'm going to check on you, right? Just like you guys check on me too.
Yeah.
Right? So,
But yeah, and I have such great parents who are so in touch with who they are and so in touch with their mental state. And I think that one that kind of shows who mom was, because you were very wise in taking us to therapy, but she was very wise, and in that last night before she passed away, she sat us down and kind of laid out the land, like what is going to happen, what life is going to be like, what the rules are, like kind of what is the Susan Suggs guidance to how you guys are going to live your life from now on, from this point, because this point is not a ending point. This is
right,
kind of just like a keep on going, and here's the new rules in the game point.
right. And then she, it was a miracle, because she was so sick and so hallucinating. But for that hour, God's presence, because for an hour she was very present and articulated. And the one thing that she said that brought comfort to me, also brought comfort to of that she would be in that room, always be in that room next door, watching over us. And then the other thing was, right, in all of the emotion, what was the question do you ask? Did you ask your mommy?
God, I don't remember.
Is daddy gonna do my hair?
Yes, I did say that. And that's why I went on that rant earlier, because who told you that this was your job? And she said, no.
She just stood up, but she was really weak, and she stood up like, "Oh my God, no, he's not gonna touch your hair." And of
I'm
course,
not doing the
obviously,
hard work we
yeah,
put into this. But yeah, that moment was so helpful for
right,
us, because and that's probably why Devin and I were so different. We had that moment. We had that closing moment. And while I didn't get to the hospital before she had passed, we had that moment as a
right,
family. We were able to kind of close the door,
right,
close the door,
right,
close the door at our own space, and just move on to the next
right,
door, and just keep going. Like you say, in life is like a hallway. Just keep moving, and it's not like we were like not taking any part of it with us.
right,
The entire basis of who we are and everything we do and the decisions we make is off of that guidance.
right,
Period.
right. Wow, really neat. Let me just really quick kind of wrap up. But the one thing that I would want to share with parents is, I wrote my list down, was, when you talk, and be honest. We touched on that. Listen and be comfortable with listening. Be comfortable with listening to the emotions. Put emotions into words. Really talk through that. Even though you were not ready at the point in time, I had to realize that, okay, you're not ready for that yet. Just like, Devon's not ready to necessarily talk about it yet. And, like mommy did a really good job. Tell the kids what to expect. And, we heard that. I mean, I needed to hear that, because I hadn't heard that up until that point, because she was so sick, and then the really, is give your child a role. I mean, we were all involved in celebrating her life on her Memorial Day. You put together the video. Devon spoke, and then we still memorialize her. Her birthday, her Memorial Day. It's like a celebration of her life. And those are some of the things that I think is very, very healthy when you lose someone so special.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well said. But we just want to thank you all for joining us today, this beautiful Monday on F3 Faith Family Focus. We return to you on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, where we wrap our adventure up with kind of this topic of self-development, and we will cover the spousal version of it, where you will be our head runner and you will bring on your guest, my great uncle Michael Suggs, and we will go into the life of how widows cope with loss, how they raise their kids, how what is the decisions, how is the feelings, what is okay, what is not okay, and how do you cope within the family core. We just want to make sure you guys find us on Facebook Live, Amazon Fire, E360 TV. With any questions, topics, we saw them, we're noting them down. We will come to those eventually. Again, this is Faith and Schaefer, and we just want to use our faith as a vehicle to help others navigate the path to the family core. So thank you guys very much, and happy Monday.
Thank you. Have a great day. Stay safe.